Hello, my name is Ashley Cowton, and this is my Module 1 over Fiscal Responsibilities of School Principals. So, the first theme was school level governance. So, a lot of districts, the budget is taken care of at the district office, which that's called centrally managed resources. Benefits of that is consistency amongst schools. They gave the example of buying textbooks, and then it's also the cost effectiveness, and it's you have a more standardized process for everybody and it's more efficient. However, some districts are turning to letting their building principals manage their budgets for their buildings, and this would be a site-based management. The benefits of that is the principal is going to understand what the school needs better than anybody else, and so the principal would be making the decisions based on the school's needs. And then they'd also be able to align their goals with their financial resources. When principals are in school in charge of the budgets, they need to make sure to keep accurate records. This includes records of projected revenue and expenditure. This helps to ensure that the school is able to achieve its goals, establish a control system, and it motivates employees to work harder. As a school leader, it's frustrating that our budgets that are government funded are so limited, so it's important not to rely solely on that, but to find other funds to help cushion other needs. Grants, sponsorship, and community partnerships, those can help with that. So how does this theme support student achievement and success? So the principal is going to understand the needs of the students in the building. Knowing that, they're going to be able to budget according to the needs of the students to make sure that everybody's getting what they need to be successful. How is this theme data informed? A lot of times, or a big part of the budget is based on the school's enrollment. It's also, there's a lot of other things that go into it, but that's a big part of it, and that's how a lot of times schools project what it might look like in the years to come. It's also important to keep track of the school's spending, so that they can kind of have an idea of what next year might look like. How does this address equitable school resource plans? Because the principal understands the needs of the school, they can allocate resources to make sure all the students are receiving a quality education. Meaning, if maybe there's extra aids that need to be provided, um, things like that, or if there's an ELL teacher that's needed, things like that are going to make sure that everybody gets an equal education. How does it address laws, policies, and regulations? Um, all the time in schools, you need to make sure that you're following the laws, policies, and regulations. That is no different when it comes to the financial needs of the school. So, following those will make sure that this building is staying in compliance. Best way to do that is to make sure you're keeping accurate and precise records. Things that I have or have not seen my principal do. So I teach in Ellis, which is just about 15 minutes west of Hayes. We have a very small school district. There's only 2 buildings in the school district. So the principals do not handle the budget. That is, everything for the budget is run through the district office. However, my principal does understand a lot of things that have to do with the budget. Working on this, I asked him several questions and he was able to answer all of my questions. He is also really good at advocating for student success, and making sure that the teachers and the staff are getting what they need to make sure that the students are successful. So the second theme was student and adult success and well-being. So it's important to manage a budget because a budget's going to play an important role in ensuring that the school operates smoothly while providing a quality education and meeting the staff's needs. The budget isn't just for the students and what they need. This also is talking about maintenance of the building, running the building, your city bill, your water bill, your electric bill. paying your hourly people, paying your salary people, maintenance of the building, and all the different things. So whenever working on the budget, it's important to take into consideration the staff's needs, uh, talking to them, allowing them to have some input. It's going to create a sense of ownership amongst the entire staff. I also feel like that would probably help with the culture in the building. If the principal values their input for important matters, it's going to make the teachers feel welcome and important. Uh, so you want to, whenever you make a budget, you want to make sure that you have funds that can uh, fund initiatives that are going to impact the students' learning and well-being. So again, like if you need, maybe an after-school tutoring program, if test scores are falling down and you need that, you need to make sure that you have the funds to provide that. And again, that is there to make sure that the students are successful. How does this theme support student achievement and success? Well, this theme is all about student success. When creating a budget, it's important to remember why we have schools. We are there to ensure that we can give the students the skills that they need to be successful adults. This also includes allocating funds to ensure teachers are going to quality PD, professional development. I think that's super important. A lot of times, if teachers attend a really good professional development, they're going to come back motivated and ready to hit the ground running to get their students successful. How is this theme data informed? So when you create the budget, it's important to prioritize what aspects will benefit the students the most. Like I said, I work in a small town where there's only 2 buildings, so a big part of our budgets are for the extracurricular sports and activities. We are struggling with some of those things now, so we're getting to that point where we have to prioritize what's more important for the kids being successful in the future. How did this theme address equitable school resource plans? Schools must ensure that all students have to be successful. That has to be provided. So this includes providing paras, aides, and quality teachers. Having those things will help all students receive an equitable education. How did this theme address laws, policies, and regulations? While I'm sure all principals want to provide the world for their staff and their students, they do have to stay within the budget while following the laws, policies, and regulations. This comes to mind when dealing with special education paras. I know from personal experience that everybody is stretched super thin. We would like to be able to use paras, the special education paras, more freely in the buildings, but they have to stay within the regulations on who they can help. Identify the things you have or have not seen your school principal do. Again, our principal, he doesn't work directly with the budget, but like I said before, he does advocate for our needs. Anytime we come to him and we say, hey, look at this great new thing I found on Teachers Pay Teachers, or these great new manipulatives. This is how I think that they can help in my classroom. He's going to do what he can to get us those funds. Usually if we go to him with that information, we won't be told no because he's advocating for us. And then after we implement it in the classroom, he'll take the successes that we're seeing and report that to the school board. One thing I do wish is we had a math aide up until this year. She retired, and we aren't replacing her. And I feel like that's a huge loss to our district because she was between both the grade school and the junior high and high school. Our superintendent is really stressing that our math scores need to be brought up, but she is not willing to provide us with a math aide because of the budget. Again, this would be something that it's for student needs, So without that math aid, we're not able to provide the interventions that we need to help close those learning gaps for the students. So that is one thing that I wish he would advocate more for. Data-informed decisions. Operational funding covers the school's running costs. It's responsive to role fluctuations, like I said before. Before you create your budget for the year, look at your current spending. Find opportunities to where you can save money, like streamline processes, find better contracts, be more cost effective. School finances cannot and should not be managed alone by any one administrator and designee. I think that is super duper important. How did this theme support student achievement success? Well, there's no need to continue funding things that aren't working for the school. So if your data is showing that what you're doing isn't working, well, then it's probably time to not fund that anymore and look into something else. How is this theme data informed? Like I said, a large portion of the budget is based from student enrollment. It's important to look closely at those numbers when working with your budget. It's also important to look at the previous year's budgets and spendings to help create a budget for the new year. Equitable school resource plans. Looking at data such as test scores along with student demographics can provide insight on areas where improvement is needed and what students might need extra support. Laws, policies, and regulations. As always, when working with the budget and anything that happens in a school, laws, policies, and regulations must be followed. What I have seen my principal do, he is limited on what he can and can't do with the budget, but he does a great job at looking at the data and advocating for the needs of the students and staff based on that data. Equitable resource plans. I really liked the Philadelphia, reading through the school district of Philadelphia's budget at how they really prioritize equitable resource plans. Being in a small school district, we definitely don't have near the need for that I'm sure they do in bigger school districts, so I appreciated seeing that. So with that, the Philadelphia school district, they set aside funds to redistribute resources to the most marginalized students in order to eliminate the predictability of success or failure based on historical trends. We know that the poorer students, often they're not going to be as successful as the students that come from wealthier homes. A lot of that has to do with what parents can provide, time that parents can spend with them, and that sort of thing. So to ensure that things become equal, they are redistributing more funds to things like Title I, the American Rescue Plan Act, school interventions, English as a second language, special education services, bilingual counseling assistance, acceleration network, and school improvement liaisons. So I think all of those are great things that they are prioritizing that. Equitable resource plans. How does it support student achievement and success? Planning for equitable resources helps to ensure that all students from all their areas of life are going to be able to be successful. This also takes a lot off the teacher's plate. Teachers, they want to help everybody all the time, and there's just not enough of us to go around to do that. So providing funds to add the things that I talked about on the previous slide is going to provide support for teachers with that as well. How is it data driven? The data is really what drives this thing. So you look at your numbers, like how many students have English as a second language, how many students receive the free and reduced lunches, who requires speech services, how many require special education services, how many require Title I, and those lists can go on and on. The numbers for that are going to drive how those funds are allocated for the areas, along with looking at test scores and benchmark testing to see where the kids are at. How did it address equitable school resource plans? Doing it this way ensures that all students and their families, which I think is really big, are receiving the resources they need to be successful in the classroom. So their families, that includes, like, if you have a family that they don't speak English, you shouldn't be using the kid as a translator. You need to provide a translator. Make sure notes are sent home in that family's language, those sorts of things. How did this theme address laws, policies, and regulations? The free and appropriate public education for everybody. Because of that law, we have to remember that we have a legal responsibility to provide these services. especially to the students that qualify. Things that my principal doesn't do. So at our school, our special education services, which includes the SPED, the speech therapy, occupational therapy, all of that is provided to us through a cooperative through USD 489, which is not in our district. So the funds that we receive for those services, they go directly to the cooperative to pay for that. And then all of those employees are employees of 489. They're not our school employees, which means that our principal, technically, he's not even the boss of those staff members. But he does do a great job at making sure that he's at all IEP meetings and SIT meetings. He listens in for areas where he can help, what the school can provide for these kids, and he does what he can. One thing about him is he is also fantastic about working with our low-income students and their families to help them find the resources that they need. He understands that a lot of those kids come from families that don't have a lot of parental support, so he really steps up and does just a lot of extra with those kids. The theme for finance laws, policies, and regulations. It's vital for a successful school that its leaders have budgeting skills, and financial decision-making abilities. The schools, they have to keep track of and provide audited annual attendance. It's important to keep both monthly and annual reports to make sure that everything is in check. Compliance is required in certain areas like special education. It is important that the budget allows for hiring quality staff to ensure that compliance is met. So how does this theme support student achievement? The finance laws ensure that the schools receive funding needed to run their schools. Keeping proper records are how schools can ensure that they keep those funds and use the money wisely. Talking about teacher well-being and staff well-being, it would be awesome if our political leaders could somehow get more funding to the school to help increase pay for the staff. I think that would do a lot for everybody. But unfortunately, that's just not going to happen. How is the theme data informed? Keeping updated data is a requirement, and they have to turn in that information to be audited. Address equitable resources. If done correctly, schools could receive more funds for programs that help all the students succeed. The proper information, it has to be documented, and if the funds are received, the rules, policies, and regulations must be followed, or those funds could be taken away. The laws, policies, and regulations, it's important to follow the rules so that you don't ruin it for everyone else. So this is just an everyday rule to live by. It happens all the time. You know, one person does one thing, and then there's a blanket statement for everybody that everybody has to follow. So this also is going to apply to schools when it comes to their finances. Each school needs to follow the laws, policies, and regulations, because if they don't, that one school not doing it could require stricter laws, policies, and regulations that will be applied to everybody. Things that my school principal does. Again, he doesn't handle the budget because that's taken care of at the district office, but he does create the reports needed for our building and presents them each month to the school board. These are my references. Move myself back around. Okay, my closing statements for relevancy. This assignment was relevant to my learning because as a future principal, I will need to understand the school's budget, whether I manage it or it's managed at the district level. Understanding the budget can help me understand the breakdown of how the school is run. This assignment improved my understanding of budgeting in schools because I never realized that budgets could be done by school principals. I've only taught in Ellis, and in Ellis, the budget has always been handled solely by the superintendent. It didn't occur to me that in other districts this could be different. It was also eye-opening how it would be beneficial for the two building principals in my district to work side by side with the superintendent to create the budget. It should not be handled by just one person. And honestly, the building principals are going to understand the building needs much better than the superintendent. Personal reflection. So I have found that each and every assignment I've completed through my building leadership courses has made me a better educator and a future leader. This assignment is no exception. Through the readings of this assignment, my eyes were open to budgets and how they can influence student success along with teacher well-being. Prioritizing those two things will always ensure that I'm doing my best to be a great leader. I also think it's important to be open about the budget with the staff. Showing them the actual numbers and where the money is being spent could be a good way to let them know you value them enough to share this information. And opening it up could lead to other people seeing something that you don't see. I do have concerns when it comes to the idea of being in charge of my school's budget. I've never been great with finances. It will be something that I'll have to work hard on. Fortunately, I know some amazing school leaders that were superintendents in my district, and they were amazing with budgeting, and I know that they would be happy to provide me with guidance if I called with questions. And that is my assignment. Thank you.